I want you to just put yourself in a very specific, really unforgiving environment for a second.
Yeah, set the scene.
Right. So it is the absolute dead of winter. And we were talking about northern Minnesota,
Right.
specifically the deep, snowy pine forests of Beltrami County. And this isn't just, a little bit cold.
No, it's that sub-zero temperature that physically hurts your lungs when you breathe in.
Exactly. Where the silence of the woods just feels heavy.
Yeah.
Right. It's absolutely. So I want you to imagine you are walking down this narrow, deeply rutted logging trail.
Oh.
You're a couple of miles off Highway 89. The canopy of the trees above you is incredibly dense. And sitting there, just completely abandoned in the snow, is a black Kia.
Which is an image that it immediately triggers a sense of dissonance,
Oh, totally.
Because you have a modern passenger vehicle just sitting dead in a landscape that is entirely hostile to it. And the visual alone tells investigators that, well, the normal sequence of human behavior has been radically interrupted here.
Yeah, but the deeper you look into this, the more that, that dissonance turns into genuine alarm. Because you walk up to this Kia, you check the doors, they're locked from the outside.
Locked from the outside.
Right. So you cup your hands, you lean in close to the frosted glass, and you peer into the cabin. And sitting right there in the center console, completely inaccessible, is the driver's cell phone.
Wow. Which, from a behavioral standpoint, fundamentally alters the threat matrix of the entire scene.
How so?
Well, in modern behavioral analysis, a smartphone isn't just a phone. It's essentially a digital anchor, right?
Yeah.
Unless an individual is executing this highly sophisticated, premeditated evasion strategy, involving burner devices and pre-stashed resources, abandoning a primary communication device completely contradicts the core human instinct for survival.
You just don't leave it behind.
Exactly.
And the driver of that car, a 31-year-old man named Corey Adam Bryant, is nowhere to be found.
Sure.
So welcome to our deep dive. Our mission today is not just to, read off the dimensions of a missing persons poster. We are pulling apart an incredibly complex web of psychological unraveling, corrupted timelines, and the mechanics of small-town whisper networks.
Yeah, and to reconstruct what actually happened here, we are synthesizing a very specific set of raw materials for you today.
Right. The sources.
Right. We're looking at the real-time investigative reporting from local outlets, like Lakeland PBS and KFGO Radio, which did a great job capturing the initial community confusion.
They really did.
And we are layering that with the extensive audio tracking done by the Deep Dive series, The Vanished.
Such a good resource.
It is. And most importantly, we are analyzing this incredibly comprehensive forensic threat profile that attempts to map Corey's behavioral decline right against the physical evidence left in those woods.
So let's unpack this, because if you just look at a headline, you might think, okay, a guy got overwhelmed by life, walked away into the snow, maybe just succumbed to the elements.
Just the simplest explanation.
Right. But the moment you actually track the sequence of events, that theory completely falls apart.
It shatters.
Yeah, this isn't a tragic accident. It operates much more like a psychological thriller, where the truth was, frankly, actively being buried before the police even knew there was a mystery.
It's because, sudden disappearances, they rarely happen in a vacuum.
Right.
The forensic reality is that there is almost always a structural collapse in the person's life that precedes the physical disappearance.
Right. And to understand that collapse, we can't start at the logging trail in the winter. We have to rewind to August of 2025.
6 months earlier.
Exactly, because that is the exact moment the foundation of Corey Bryant's life started to crack under just a massive amount of pressure.
Yeah. And just to set the baseline here, at that time, Corey was a 31-year-old white male. He actually turned 32 while the search for him was ongoing, which is just heartbreaking.
It is.
He's about 5'11", weighing around 200 pounds, blonde hair, blue eyes. And he was primarily living between the Himes and Black Duck areas of Minnesota.
Which are very specific types of communities, right?
Right. These are small, deeply interconnected communities surrounded by just vast stretches of wilderness.
Yeah.
And the catalyst for everything that follows occurs on August 18th, 2025. Corey is arrested.
And it's not a minor infraction.
No, not at all. He is charged with felony threats of violence and reckless disregard.
So let's look at the mechanism of that charge, because it is extreme. Based on the reporting from iNewZ-TV, Corey was dealing with an active order for protection against him.
Right.
He was clearly in a state of immense distress, and he ends up calling the Beltrami County court staff in Bemidji.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And during that call, he explicitly tells the staff, and this is a direct quote, I will kill that effing judge.
which instantly triggers a massive systemic response.
Of course it does.
Right? When you direct a lethal threat at a judicial official, the machinery of the state pivots immediately to treat you as an active, high-level danger.
I mean, it's the ultimate self-sabotage, right?
Absolutely.
But what really strikes me is his reaction afterward. Because when the police inevitably show up, his defense is essentially, I didn't mean anything by it. I was just so upset. I didn't do anything to deserve what I'm going through.
Right.
He's framing it as this emotional pressure valve bursting, not a premeditated assassination plot.
And from a psychological standpoint, that distinction is vital to understanding his internal state, even if the legal system, cannot afford to differentiate the two.
Right. They have to take it seriously regardless.
Exactly. But what we are observing here is the introduction of acute allostatic load.
Break that down for us.
So allostatic load is essentially the wear and tear on the body and brain. It results from chronic overactivity or underactivity of physiological systems that are normally involved in adapting to an environmental challenge. So suddenly, Corey is not just dealing with personal relationship issues of the protective order.
Right.
The full weight of the judicial system is actively scrutinizing his every move.
Yeah, his life becomes a glass house overnight.
Precisely.
I mean, every text, every movement could be construed as a violation of bail or evidence of further instability.
Which is exactly the environment that breeds profound paranoia.
Oh, yeah.
The forensic profile we're looking at notes a dramatic behavioral shift following this felony charge.
He started changing?
Yeah, he became increasingly withdrawn. He started expressing this intense fear regarding his immediate social circle.
Even his friends.
Yeah, telling his family that his living situation in the Hines and Black Duck area had become, quote, weird, and stating unequivocally that he no longer felt safe.
Okay, let me stop you there and push back on that interpretation for a second.
Sure.
Because if we're looking at this chronologically, is this a case of a guy whose brain is just short-circuiting from legal stress?
Like a misfiring.
Right. Let's use an analogy. Think of his life as a Jenga tower, and that felony charge was the first block pulled out.
Okay, I like that.
So paranoia from legal stress acts almost like an autoimmune disease in your social life.
Oh, yeah.
Right. The system designed to protect you, your hyper-awareness, starts attacking your healthy relationships. It makes you cut off the very people who could actually verify your safety.
That's a very good point.
So I guess my question is, could it be that nobody was actually threatening him? Like, could his brain, completely flooded with cortisol from the felony charge, just be interpreting everything as a threat?
That is a highly relevant clinical question. Does extreme paranoia drive a person into hiding on their own, or does that resulting isolation and erratic behavior turn them into a vulnerable target for opportunistic individuals around them?
Exactly.
The reality is that chronic hypervigilance degrades your ability to accurately assess risk.
You can't tell friend from foe.
Exactly. You might burn bridges with reliable family members while simultaneously gravitating toward fringe individuals. People who don't judge your erratic behavior, but who might actually pose a genuine physical danger.
So he's actively isolating himself. He's feeling hunted by the legal system, and he's distrusting his roommates or neighbors.
A perfect storm.
Which brings us to a massive pivot point in this timeline. We move from the chronic, kind of simmering paranoia of the fall directly into an acute, terrifying spike on the night of December 19th, 2025.
Yes, December 19th is the operational center of gravity for this entire case.
It all comes down to this night.
It does. It is the last verified date Corey was seen or heard from. He was spotted in the city of Bemidji, and the subsequent alerts specifically noted his clothing, camouflage pants, and a black sweatshirt.
And I have to point out the duality of that outfit, because it plays a huge role later on.
It really does.
If you were walking down the sidewalk in Bemidji, camouflage and a black hoodie is just, high visibility casual wear.
Right. Half the town is wearing it.
Yeah, exactly. But the moment you cross the tree line into Beltrami County wilderness, you are essentially wearing an invisibility cloak.
Yes.
That outfit is perfectly designed to just absorb into the dark pine trunks and the shadows.
The environmental context of his clothing is critical,
Okay.
absolutely. But it takes a back seat to the digital footprint of that evening.
The phone call.
Right. According to the deep dive from the Vanish and the forensic analysis, Corey made a phone call to a friend that night. And the behavioral markers of this specific call are fundamentally different from his previous complaints.
So this wasn't just him saying his living situation was weird again.
No, not at all. The analysis indicates an acute sympathetic nervous system response.
Like a fight or flight response.
Exactly.
Yeah.
During this call, Corey expressed immediate visceral terror regarding the people who were physically in his presence at that exact moment.
Oh, wow.
The chronic anxiety had crystallized into an active, localized threat. And then he abruptly disconnected the call.
You just hung up.
Yeah. He promised his friend he would call right back. And he never did.
Okay, I'm struggling a bit with the leap the forensic analysis makes right here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because if we already established that this guy has an autoimmune style paranoia regarding his social circle, why does behavioral psychology immediately categorize an abrupt hang-up as an external physical attack?
You're wondering if it was internal.
Right. Couldn't an immediate threat in his mind just be like a neighbor knocking loudly on the door, causing him to panic, drop the phone, and just run?
That's a fair question.
Why do we assume foul play instead of a hallucination or a massive panic attack?
Because we have to look at the cessation of the pattern.
Okay.
Even individuals experiencing severe psychotic breaks or extreme paranoia, they generally maintain some tether to their safe contacts, even if the communication is disjointed or manic.
They'll keep rambling via text.
Exactly. They will text, they will call back from a different location, they will ping a tower. An abrupt mid-crisis disconnection, followed by absolute permanent silence across all digital and physical spectrums. That is the primary statistical indicator of an external interruption.
Wow.
The timeline essentially hits a brick wall the second that call drops.
So we have this verified moment of terror, the dropped call, and a hard stop on his digital life.
Yes.
And you would think that triggers a massive county-wide manhunt the very next morning.
You would hope so.
But it doesn't.
Wow.
What happens instead is a 5-week blind spot.
5 weeks.
5 weeks of nothing.
A 5-week gap in a threat-to-life investigation isn't just a delay. It is a catastrophic loss of evidentiary integrity.
It destroys the case.
It does. And the mechanics of how this gap occurred are rooted in family dynamics and the judicial calendar. You see, Corey had a critical court hearing for those felony charges scheduled for January 2026.
Which, by the way, is the one thing you do not miss if you are already paranoid about going to jail.
Precisely. If you are terrified of the judge and the system, you show up. When that court date arrives and Corey failed to appear, this simmering concern among his family suddenly boiled over into active panic. They began checking in with one another, and the systemic failure within their communication network became apparent. Everyone had assumed someone else was in contact with him.
It's the bystander effect, but internalized within a kinship network.
That's a great way to put it.
And I think modern technology actually makes this so much worse.
How so?
Well, we have this illusion of connection, right? Because we see someone's profile on social media or we know they have a smartphone in their pocket.
Right. They're always reachable.
Exactly. You figure, well, he's 31, he's dealing with a really heavy legal situation. He probably just needs space.
Sure.
I'm sure his brother talked to him. You don't jump to the conclusion that a grown man has been intercepted by violence just because he didn't text back for a week.
No, you don't. That diffusion of responsibility is incredibly common in adult disappearances.
It makes total sense.
But the situation here was compounded by an external piece of information that actively derailed the investigation.
The site.
Right. Just as the family realizes he is actually missing, a witness comes forward. This individual formally claims to have seen Corey alive north of Bemidji on January 26, 2026.
Wait, that is over a month after the terrifying final phone call on December 19th?
Yes, and protocol dictates that law enforcement must orient their search parameters around the last known sighting.
Right, they have to follow the evidence.
Consequently, when the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and the Beltrami County Sheriff's Office issue their alerts in mid-February, those alerts are completely anchored to the January 26th date.
Oh, no.
They're deploying resources under the assumption that the trail is only 2 weeks cold rather than 8 weeks dead.
But then the whole foundation of the search collapses.
In late February, the witness completely retracts their statement.
Just takes it back.
They admit the sighting was entirely incorrect. And almost simultaneously, Corey's black Kia is finally discovered in the woods. The timeline violently snaps back to December 19th.
Man, think about the destructive power of a false timeline for a second. It's immense.
It's not just a clerical error. It's like trying to navigate out of a maze, but someone blindfolded you and dropped you at the wrong entrance.
Yeah, exactly.
By the time you realize you're in the wrong place, the trail is just gone. If you are an investigator and you believe a guy was at a gas station on January 26th, you are pulling camera footage from late January.
Right.
You aren't looking at the footage from December 19th.
And this is where the loss of metadata becomes completely irreversible.
Explain that.
We aren't just talking about standard security cameras overwriting their DVR loops after 30 days, though that is a massive factor.
Sure.
We are talking about the degradation of digital footprints, passive IP logins at local coffee shops, cellular tower handshakes, background application refresh data.
All the silent stuff our phones do.
Right. That data is often purged or archived by telecom companies on rolling 30-day schedules. By the time the sheriff's office realized they needed the December data, the digital window had largely closed. Not to mention the physical environment. I mean, 5 weeks in a Minnesota winter means multiple freeze and thaw cycles, blizzards.
Exactly. Any biological evidence, tire tracks, or footprints left on December 19th were buried under feet of snow, then subjected to temperatures that compromised forensic swabbing, and then buried again.
The physical scene was essentially sterilized by the weather.
Completely sterilized.
Which brings me back to this witness who retracted the sighting. Let's analyze the motive here because I think it's crucial.
Okay.
We know human memory is incredibly malleable, right?
Very much so.
Is it possible this was just an innocent temporal error? Like someone saw a guy in a camo jacket at a gas station, recognized the general build, and their brain just slotted it into the wrong week?
It happens.
Or are we looking at something much more deliberate?
Well, forensic psychology categorizes witness retractions into two primary buckets: cognitive misattribution and deliberate misdirection. Cognitive misattribution is exactly what you described. A fleeting glance coupled with the power of suggestion from a missing person's poster.
Right.
However, the forensic profile raises a much darker possibility here.
Which is what?
If this witness was embedded in Corey's social circle, that January 26th sighting might have been a calculated attempt to generate a false alibi.
Wow. Explain how that works. Like, why provide a false sighting? Who does that benefit?
If an act of violence occurred on December 19th, the perpetrators know the police will eventually start looking.
Sure.
By planting a witness who claims to have seen the victim alive a month later, you create a massive buffer.
Distraction.
You force the police to focus their timeline, their subpoenas, and their geographical searches on late January. By the time the lie's exposed, the physical evidence from December is gone, and the perpetrators have had 8 weeks to align their stories.
It's weaponized misinformation.
Exactly.
And the realization that the timeline had been manipulated, that happened right as they found the most glaring piece of physical evidence in the entire case. The black Kia. Right. Discovered nearly 2 months after Corey vanished, just sitting on that logging trail off Highway 89.
Let's really dig into the forensics of this car, because this is where the narrative of he just walked away completely shatters for me.
Me too.
The car is found locked from the outside, but Corey's cell phone is locked inside the cabin.
We touched on the concept of the phone as a digital anchor earlier, but let's apply it directly to the behavioral mechanics of an evasion scenario.
Okay.
When a fugitive or someone undergoing a severe mental health crisis decides to disappear, their smartphone is literally their only tether to survival.
Right.
It provides GPS navigation out of a hostile environment, access to digital banking, and emergency communication.
Yeah.
To manually lock a car from the outside, thereby securing the phone inside, and then walk into sub-zero wilderness, is deeply counterintuitive to any survival instinct. Let me translate that for a second because it's so important.
Please.
Locking your car to protect your phone, but then abandoning the car in the woods is like locking the front door of your house to keep burglars out, but leaving your wallet, your passport, and your keys sitting right on the welcome mat.
That is a perfect analogy.
It achieves nothing. If you are running away to start a new life, you take the phone. If your car breaks down and you have to walk for help, you absolutely take the phone.
Which forces investigators to evaluate two distinct forensic scenarios regarding those locked doors.
Let's hear them.
Scenario A. Corey drives the car to that remote trail himself. Suffering from acute paranoia and perhaps intending self-harm, he intentionally leaves the phone inside, locks the door out of sheer muscle memory, and walks into the woods.
Okay, but think about the implications of Scenario B.
Scenario B completely removes Corey's agency.
Right.
A third party, someone Corey was with, or someone who intercepted him on December 19th, drives that car to the logging trail. They purposefully leave Corey's phone inside the vehicle.
Why leave it?
Because carrying his phone would allow cell towers to track their subsequent movements away from the drop site.
Oh, wow, of course.
Right. And they lock the doors to delay the discovery of the interior. A locked car in the woods might just look like a hunter's vehicle to a passerby.
Yeah.
It buys them time before the police realize it's a crime scene.
That is chilling. And the geography they chose to stage this, or where Corey chose to drive, depending on the scenario, it is actively hostile to investigators.
Yes.
I mean, Beltrami County isn't a municipal park.
It's an environment that swallows evidence.
Hmm.
The area features dense pine canopies that block aerial surveillance.
Right, you can't just fly a drone over it.
Exactly. It is dotted with wetlands that freeze solid, creating treacherous, uneven terrain covered in deep snowdrifts. The local law enforcement attempted 2 separate tactical searches of the immediate area surrounding the Kia shortly after it was found.
And what happened?
Both were completely ineffective.
Because you can't run scent dogs in that environment.
Right. You cannot effectively run cadaver or scent tracking dogs in fresh, heavy snow over a trail that is 2 months cold.
Why is that? Just the temperature?
Yes. The volatile organic compounds that dogs track are either frozen, preventing them from off-gassing into the air, or they're buried under feet of precipitation.
Yeah.
The physical terrain completely stymied the initial police response.
Which left the burden entirely on the people who actually cared about him.
It did.
It wasn't until months later, when the spring thaw finally hit, that the community could really mobilize. On Sunday, May 31st, 2026, friends and family organized a massive, systematic foot search.
It highlights the agonizing reality of rural investigations.
Yeah.
Municipal law enforcement simply does not have the budget or manpower to execute grid searches of hundreds of acres of dense woodland indefinitely.
They just don't.
It requires civilian volunteers walking shoulder to shoulder through the brush.
Just visualizing that a Sunday morning in May, people meeting at the Schoolcraft parking lot, where they had to tie balloons to the highway signs just so volunteers could find the staging area.
Wow.
Right. They're walking through melting wetlands looking for any trace of a camouflage jacket. It's devastating.
It truly is.
But while the physical search was frozen for months, there was a completely different kind of trail that was burning hot during those early weeks.
You are referring to the sociological aspect of the investigation,
Yeah.
the Whisper Network.
Yes, because if leaving the phone in the car points away from a voluntary disappearance, the community rumors point directly, like a neon sign, toward a coordinated cover-up.
They really do.
Let's go back to January 2026. This is when the family first realized Corey missed his court date, and they started making phone calls to his social circle.
Right.
They uncover a terrifying trend.
Multiple individuals within Corey's immediate residential and social spheres were already disseminating information to the community that Corey was dead.
Let's establish the timeline on that, because it is the most chilling detail of this entire deep dive.
Yeah.
These death rumors were spreading before the sheriff ever issued a missing persons alert. They were spreading a full month before the black Kia was discovered locked on that trail.
In forensic linguistics and threat assessment, this is the ultimate red flag. We categorize this as guilty knowledge.
But hold on, let's look at the alternative for a second. Small towns run on gossip, right?
Absolutely.
Someone sees a police cruiser parked in front of a house, and by noon, the rumor mill says it's a massive DEA raid.
Right. It gets blown out of proportion.
Exactly. So how do behavioral profilers mathematically separate idle, malicious gossip, like people just talking trash, because a guy with a felony charge skipped town from actual coordinated criminal knowledge?
It comes down to the linguistic markers of finality versus speculation, combined with temporal mapping.
Break that down.
Gossip is typically speculative and reactive. People say things like, "Did you hear they found his car?" Or, "I bet he ran off to Canada." But the rumors circulating in January were declarative statements of death preceding any public indicator of physical danger.
Statements of fact.
Yes. When a social network prematurely generates an obituary for a person who is ostensibly just avoiding a court date, it indicates that the network is operating on data unavailable to the public.
They are normalizing his absence.
Precisely. It is a psychological defense mechanism executed by the perpetrators or their immediate accomplices.
Oh, dark.
By seeding the community with the narrative that Corey is already dead, they are attempting to suppress a frantic search. It's an effort to make his disappearance a concluded fact rather than an active emergency.
And if we tie the sociological data back to the digital data of December 19th.
The picture becomes devastatingly clear.
Yeah.
On the night of December 19th, Corey explicitly communicates acute terror regarding the people currently in his environment.
Right.
The phone disconnects. Weeks later, those exact same social circles are casually telling neighbors that he is deceased. This is the strongest, most cohesive indicator of foul play. It heavily suggests that the physical threat he identified on that final call was actually realized.
So we have an incredibly dense matrix of evidence here. A man whose brain is flooded with paranoia from a felony charge. A corrupted timeline caused by a retracted witness sighting. A car locked from the outside with the digital lifeline left inside. And a localized whisper network that knew he was dead before the police knew he was missing.
It's a lot.
It is. So where does an investigation actually go from here?
The forensic report we are analyzing provides very specific, actionable mandates for law enforcement to break this case open.
Okay, what's first?
Number one is advanced digital mobile forensics on the phone recovered from the Kia.
But the phone was just sitting there for 2 months in the freezing cold. It's completely dead.
The battery is dead, yes, but the solid-state memory holds a treasure trove of network data. Investigators don't just need the basic call log.
What do they need?
They need to extract the time difference of arrival data, or TDOA. Even when a phone is not actively making a call, it is passively handshaking with nearby cell towers to maintain network readiness.
Like it's constantly checking in.
Exactly. By measuring the microsecond delay between the phone's signal hitting multiple towers, forensic analysts can triangulate its physical location.
So it's less like a single GPS dot on a map and more like mapping a massive Venn diagram of exactly where that device traveled on the night of December 19th.
Exactly. They need to ascertain the device's velocity and its route.
Did it go straight to the woods?
Right. Did the phone travel directly to that logging trail immediately after the dropped call? Or did it move around Bemidji for hours before being driven out to the woods? That data definitively proves whether Corey was intercepted immediately.
Okay, that makes total sense. What is the second mandate?
A highly aggressive, formal interrogation of the witness who provided the false January 26th sighting.
They need to squeeze them.
Investigators must break down the origin of that statement. They need to map the relationship between that witness and the individuals Corey identified as threats on December 19th.
Right. Was there a connection?
Was the witness coerced? Were they paid? Or were they actively involved in generating a false alibi for the primary suspects?
And the final step has to be dismantling the rumor mill.
Yes. The sheriff's office must deploy subpoenas to trace the communication network of those early death rumors.
Find the source?
They need to find patient zero, who was the absolute first individual to definitively state that Corey Adam Bryant was dead. Tracing the flow of that specific phrase backward through text messages and social media direct messages will likely lead directly to the room Corey was in when he made his final phone call.
Wow. You know, for anyone listening to this deep dive who maybe operates in that northern Minnesota footprint, or who might remember something anomalous around Highway 89 or in Bemidji back in December 2025, there are actual real-world mechanisms to report this.
Yes, please listen to this part.
The search coordination line, which handles volunteer efforts and community mapping, is 218-368-9388. But if you have forensic tips, if you know the origin of those rumors, or if you know who drove that Kia, you need to contact the Beltrami County Sheriff's non-emergency line at 218-333-9111.
Complex investigations of this nature are frequently unblocked by a single piece of peripheral data provided by someone who didn't even recognize its significance at the time.
Absolutely. I want you, the listener, to just pause and really think about the mechanics of this disappearance. Think about the vulnerabilities built right into our social fabric.
It's unsettling.
We like to believe that if we vanished, alarms would sound immediately right.
That people would notice.
Yeah, but look at how easily someone already buckling under the weight of extreme legal stress and chemical paranoia can just fall through the ice.
Easily to disappear.
Corey's absence was actively cloaked for weeks by a terrifying combination of familial assumptions, bad witness data, and malicious local gossip.
A perfect storm of bad information.
It shows how rapidly a human life can be erased, not just from the physical world, but from the immediate awareness of the people who should be demanding answers.
It is a profound study in how misinformation, whether accidental or weaponized, is the greatest enemy of forensic truth.
I want to leave you with one final image to process today. It is the visual that I simply cannot shake from my mind.
Okay.
We keep returning to that black Kia sitting dead on the logging trail, just swallowed by the pines.
Yeah,
The doors were secured from the outside. The digital lifeline was sealed inside.
right.
If forensic investigators can successfully extract that cellular data, if they can pinpoint the exact minute that phone arrived in the woods and stopped moving forever,
The truth is in that data.
the real mystery isn't just why the car was abandoned. The truly haunting question you have to ask yourself is whose boots were walking away from that locked Kia into the snow?